I am so sorry, everyone. Please hear me out. I was cleaning out my closet a few days ago when I randomly found this album that I didn't even remember that I had. One of my friends actually loves Dave Matthews, so I'm assuming that I probably got it from them, to be honest. So unless I find more of these randomly lying around, I can only tentatively promise you that this is the actual final episode of Bops from the Basement. After sitting down and listening to this album, I definitely felt that it was worth talking about in an episode, so let's dive right in. I never personally followed this band. I knew about a couple of their songs beforehand, and those few that I was aware of, I thought were cool. And that was really the extent of it. I really regret that now, because this album makes me want to listen to the rest of their discography and attend their shows. Now for some context. In the 80s, we had some alternative rock bands like REM and Pixies. And even though the 90s were very much dominated by Nirvana and, by extension, grunge, as well as hip-hop, you still had Dave Matthews and other similar bands emerging during this time. And they seemed to largely respect and honor the decades past by incorporating multiple classic genres into their rock music. Funk in particular is a big one, especially in the case of Dave Matthews. So examples of their contemporaries are Rusted Roots, Counting Crows, and Big Wreck. However, I would also argue that they are the PG version, essentially, of the Red Hot Chili Peppers and Stone Temple Pilots. And they are most definitely the happier counterpart to Radiohead. There's a really good chance that if you are a fan or are at least familiar with any one of these other bands, then you probably already know all of this about Dave Matthews and may already even be a fan. If not, however, then this gives you a really good idea of what their sound is like. Now, their lyrical content is something of a debate. In fact, a lot of critics back in the day who didn't really like this album were oftentimes complaining about the lyrics. It probably does depend on the album and ultimately your personal preferences. Going off of just Crash, I would say some of them are cool and innovative, and others are just kind of generic. Crash Into Me was the song that I knew from it beforehand, and I would say it probably falls into the latter category. That all being said, Dave Matthews is one of those bands that you absolutely have to listen to for the music because it more than makes up for it. Especially if you can catch one of their live performances. The thing that truly sets them apart from their peers is the fact that they are a jam band. They do essentially treat their concerts like jam sessions. No two sets are ever the same, so you are getting a different experience every single time, and it's like listening to these songs again and again for the first time. This is where their appeal essentially comes from and why touring is so lucrative for them. They can also make a lot of income from their live tracks and will never need to put out a new studio album ever again. They don't even really have that many as is. But hey, they're still diligent enough to come up with original music every now and again. It's clear that they treat their fans really well, and it's super commendable. Not to mention that they still do rehearse their shows to ensure that they have a foundation and rapport with one another, so that their experiments and improv can come naturally and the transitions are much smoother. And yeah, studio album or otherwise, jam band songs tend to go on for quite a while. The concerts easily go over 2 hours. That's why I think, especially for people just getting into Dave Matthews, Crash is the perfect length. Even though the songs last generally over 5 minutes, there's only 12 of them, so the album itself is about an hour long. Optimal for car rides, dancing, or however else you want to have fun. I remember the season of American Idol that had Philip Phillips, and he openly talked about how Dave Matthews influenced his sound. And you can definitely hear their impact on other artists too. John Mayer being the obvious one, Arcade Fire, Mumford & Sons, and Jason Mraz. So yeah, awesome band with a respectable legacy behind it. I will now and forever appreciate how intricate and involved their songs are. And that's it. Thank you so much for listening. Next time, I'll have a new What a Gal entry, and in another video, introduce something new and include a bunch of announcements. Bye-bye now.